Hello, hello. We are
Hello, everybody.
live. Hi, everyone. Today, we have the smokiest of classes. We're super excited today. My name is Michael Moberly. I'm with Lush Life. And today, we have Travis Azeltine, with Middleton Mixology here, as well as our smoke expert, Nickle Morris of the legendary Bar Expo.
That's the only time that's ever been said nicely about me.
As a smoke expert. He's about to show us what that means. Today we are in for a smoky afternoon discussion about the realities of what it looks like smoking cocktails for high volume, as well as how we can use this cool smoke top tool to get the smoke cocktails into guests' hands quickly, as well as some crazy stuff that Nick has up his sleeves, as well as some advice on maybe some alternative things to smoke in there, which is really fun. And we're excited about that. But before we jump into class, there are 4 things I need you to do, as always. 1, like us on Facebook. If you like us on Facebook, you can set alerts on when we do live classes and all that fun stuff. We're doing our end of the year recaps. It's going to be great. After that, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know I like to watch YouTube on my phone more than I like watching it on Facebook, so that you can do that there. All of our classes live on the YouTube channel as well as our Facebook, so you can see the channels that we have with amazing information across the board. And make sure you follow us on Instagram. There we're doing takeovers and conversations all the time. That's a constant way to stay in contact with us. And if you have any questions for Nickle or for Travis, please make sure that you comment below and ask all the questions in the world. This is a unique opportunity to get a smoke expert and the mind behind the tool. So make sure you ask those questions. If you're on the fence about whether or not you want to buy one or whatever it is, now's the time to ask those questions and see it in use. So before we jump right into Nickle, Travis, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the smoke top, about Middleton Mixology, what y'all are up to over there?
Yeah, so the smoke top came from James Middleton, a bartender just looking for more tips and looking to draw people into his bar. He didn't like the way the other smoking devices took so long, or you couldn't do multiple at a time. So many different objections to the old ways. So he invented the smoke top, and it's the latest and greatest in smoking cocktails. It's fast, it's easy. You can use a variety of wood chips or herbs and spices. You can get very creative with it. Our motto is made by bartenders for bartenders. So that's basically it. It's all made in America, and we're happy to spread the word.
What is the smoke top made out of?
It's made out of 100% American cherry wood.
Okay, that's awesome. And so Nickle's prepared some great steps for us to use this really cool tool. Nick, first of all, how's your experience with this little monster?
Dude, I love this little tool. I'm well known as like somebody who embraces the future. Obviously, I'm very much like a bar futurist. However, I also come from really high volume. I started in really high volume. I used to do music festivals, the draft programs and music festivals and stuff, and that's 20, 30,000 cocktails a week or a weekend, a couple days. So I like to move fast. It's also how I like to bartend. It's a little more fun. I've never been a big fan of like slow restaurant bartending, so this thing is like perfect for me. It's also, there are a lot of tools that come out that don't necessarily fit into my greater ethos of being good for the environment and good for the future, the thing I'm really interested in. This thing totally is. The smoke top is way more than a smoking gun is. And like, I really like to prep. I am a firm believer, I think it's probably because I started as a bar back in a nightclub, that prep's way more important than actually putting things out. Like, production doesn't exist without prep. It's just the final step of prep. So like, this thing is killer, because that used to be, if you wanted to smoke cocktails, you either had to do it in prep, which if you're going to do it in prep, unless you're doing something really special, you might as well use a spirit that already has that, because it's Occam's razor for bartenders like us. Or you get out that big vacuum Mr. Bubbly smoking gun machine and you turn it on, and it's like turning on, you remember, all the bartenders watching this might be too young to remember this, but we used to have gun systems, and the compressor would kick on. And when the compressor kicks on, it's this deafening for like 30 seconds. And that really, really, really ruins an intimate drinking environment.
I have a PTSD from the sound of running out of a gun. Dude,
I
hear it. That
Dude, I was a bar back at a place that only did bibs. I hate that sound. Pulling those things out of those boxes. I wish I would have been on the East Coast because they have eggs.
Yeah.
Anyway, So I do that stuff aside. Bibs suck, guns suck. That noise sucks. And it really kind of ruins the ambiance. And when you're being the magician, when you're making more better tips, when you're trying to show off behind the bar, you need something that's not going to get in your way to do so, something that's not going to be cumbersome. And what's cool about this is while this product is very flashy, as a matter of fact, I'll light one up here. I have the regular cherry wood in here. I have another special thing for when we get into the special ingredients. But, hold on a second. Let's make sure I can light it. I still know how to do this, I swear. It's so easy because you just, a little close. It's a little hot. You want to run your torch a little cooler than I currently am, but we're doing a demo. Look at how full this is. Look at this. From that tiny little bit.
You get smoked that. I mean, you had that torch on it for what, like 10 seconds?
2 seconds. 2 seconds. Yeah. No time at all. It's crazy how useful it is. So like, this glass smells so good now. The idea of using a smoking gun is really cool. Smoking cocktails is very fun, very potentially magical for the guest. But at the end of the day, like, this is the right way to do it. This product has finally made it possible. And there are other sort of similar products. This one's by far the best, in my opinion, because this one, the little bowl chamber, sticks out of the top of it. And some of them, it's inverted, goes the other way because they assume the gravity's not on their side. It is. Smoke will always go down. Always go down. Go watch the movie Backdraft if you want to know more about what smoke does on the ground, I guess, or how handsome Kurt Russell is. But, what? Is it not Kurt Russell?
No, that's Kurt Russell. Oh, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So the neat thing about this is because it's flat on the bottom, it gives you the opportunity if you've got basically any kind of drink. You can already have it iced, and what's cool about that is the coldness of the top will catch some of that smoke before it'll get to the bottom, so you'll actually end up with a more layered drink. So if you're doing this as you're serving a drink that's on ice, you get more of the smoke on the top and less of it at the bottom, so you get this neat layered drink. You can put it in the drink before you ice it. When you go to serve it, very popular, very common. One of the fun things to do that we like to participate in as well is we use liquid nitro to chill our glassware. So when you do that, you get a little bit in there. That's really smoky. If you then take that, put in a cold drink, and then hit it with smoke again, and don't worry, the glassware is tempered. It'll be fine. You really just have such an outstanding and fun-looking cocktail for something that's not terribly difficult for you to make. You know, the recipe for whatever that cocktail's got to be, it can be whatever it is. It can be a daiquiri, it can be an old-fashioned, it could be a 9 Amaro Sazerac, it can be whatever. But this thing is just so useful. I'm gushing about it, and that's a pretty rare thing for me to do, because usually I'm quick to be like, yeah, but it doesn't do this, or yeah, but it doesn't do that. I took this thing off while I was at the bar, and I put it on 4 old fashions in a mixing glass before I iced it to see if it would smoke those. Does it just fine. I poured all those drinks out. They were already smoked before they were ready to go. So the cool thing about that is you go from having a very unique individual experience, or you can have a big group experience where, say you use this to make smoked old fashions as a house cocktail, your restaurant, your bar, whatever. Well, people are going to want to come in for that experiential drink. Our bar program is our cornerstones, our experiential drinks. So like people, the way you get new people, you can tell people that you can assume that the average person really, really cares about how a daiquiri tastes, but they don't care that much. That's why we're in the situation we're in. You have to be fun. You have to offer something else. And a product like the Smoke Top really does that because it's like experiential, but it's also super fast. I guess I could talk about, the me's with it, but look at this thing. It's cherry wood, it's laminated. So while you don't want to get it wet and you don't want to run it through the dish, just like any good knife you have, you can clean it incredibly easily. It's easier to clean than a knife. And again, this is not to say anything about anybody, but you want to tell me that there aren't a bunch of bartenders who don't know how to do this in the middle of shift? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So it's just like a really, really useful tool. You can burn through it real fast. And what's neat about it is if you wanted to, you could definitely measure out the chips and you could make sure that you had enough for each drink in there. You know what I mean? Like with a smoking gun, a lot of that is guesswork. A lot of it's guesswork. Consistency is really important in the drinks that you put into the world, like really important. We all know that. It's why we make old fashions the way that they made them 200 years ago, because that consistency is vital for people to learn to appreciate a thing. This allows you that consistency with your drinks that I would argue a smoking gun can't give you. Because you can measure it, because you can weigh it, because you can do things that normally, smoking gun's just fun. It wasn't a product it clearly wasn't designed by a bartender. It was designed as like a fun kitchen tool that we adopted and decided we were going to put on our countertops and serve to people. This is like the perfect revision. This is like the New Testament smoking gun. It's a much better version of the same idea, and it gets everything done way faster. And what's cool about these, you can have 20 of these in your mise en place. One of the things that I like to do with my tools, old school tip, smarter, not harder, hang all your tools over your hand sink. Always. Don't keep them in cups. Don't keep them on top of your bar. Don't do any of that. They all got holes in their handle for a reason. Hang them on hooks over your hand sink. You know what else I can hang on a hook over my hand sink? This thing. We have a little pole that sits, and it doesn't hurt the screen at all, and it sits right there. You can set them up, and then you just have them sitting on your bar top. So just like when you roll into your favorite super high-end, like, Death & Co. build out, and they got 40 tin sets sitting out, you can do the exact same thing with the smoke top for the same reason. And then you've got this fresh experience every time, and you don't have to wash it. Now, in theory, you could put something through it caustic enough that it would have a remnant, but because it's being burned and it's smoke, I've yet to have any problems with it. And that includes going back to back with used cooperage, peat moss, whatever. I was burning just bacon. Well, in my situation, ham. One of the things, that really interested me was being able to try new things. And it's so useful for that. The mise is fantastic. We'll get into some of that stuff here in a minute. But in terms of like usability, the thing's killer.
I have a quick question for Travis, actually, real quick. Travis, how many uses can one of those smoke tops, like how many fires do you think that they can pull off?
We estimate about 500.
500?
Yeah, and the only reason it has a limit is because, as you can see, the top does burn as you're burning down the wood chips that are in the chimney. So we've even seen some people that have cut them or sanded that down a little bit and have gotten 1,000 uses out of it. But yeah, eventually it won't hold the screen, and that's when we estimate that it's done. So we say about 500.
The tool tells you when it's broken, which I love.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like. It's maybe it's because I'm the type of guy who built his own bar, but to be honest, I would fix this thing every time. It's just a little screen. It's a really nice routed piece of wood, and it's tall enough that you could easily, what you said, you could grind this down no problem and continue. And what's cool is it's not like the top has to be level, so it gets this really cool character because over time it'll start to get scorched here and there'll be a nick here and there, and instead of having this really perfect looking thing, you have this the prettiest tools are the most used tools. We all know that. You can look at 100-year-old machine press, and it can be the paint's falling off, but it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful machine that was built for a purpose, and that's all that it does. Smoke tops like that. And I mean, I haven't done too much to mine yet, but it's already getting there. And what's cool is this is cherry wood. So as I do that, those sugars are going to come out, and you're going to get a little bit of extra of that every single time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Michael, are we ready to jump right in with some action shots?
Yeah. You want to do some weird stuff? Do some weird stuff? All right, let me get some weird stuff. Okay. So, as we talked earlier, a little bit about the cool, I say earlier like it wasn't 2 minutes ago, about the other stuff you can do. So, this thing, the smoke top, really surprised me with how useful it is. Like, anybody who knows me, I'm a big fan of the immersion circulator, and that's because sorry, I'm futzing with my torch. And that's because immersion circulators are so incredibly useful. I can distill with mine. I can make leftovers with it. I can infuse every single thing without a cooked flavor in it. And here's something I'm going to say about this. I really enjoy that this is the type of item that you can sorry, my torch is still a little hot. That you can really play with. Like, you can have so much fun with this. We were talking a little bit in the lead up. Look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. Look at how beautiful that is. That big old cup of smoke.
Dang.
And in this case, this smells like the very first night at camp because that is used cooperage from a wild turkey barrel. And think about the possibilities you have with that, right? So you can take everything that we love about barrel aging and everything we love about smoking, and instead of waiting 7 years and having a peating floor and all these things, you can spend some of your hard-earned tip money on a well-made American product that can do both for you. So I can take vodka. This is a little professional background for me, but I made a cocktail once that was an old-fashioned, that was just a vodka old-fashioned that I aged beforehand. And it was cool. It was good, but that wood always has like, it's not exactly the same quality because it doesn't sit for the same amount of time. Well, using this used cooperage and then burning that, you get a really, really cool, it's almost oily. Like there's a totally different sensation to the spirit. Sherry was the first thing I did it with because duh. And it turns out that if you take used cooperage and you smoke it into sherry, you have maybe one of the best things you've ever had in your entire life. And here, I'm in Kentucky. I'm a Kentucky Colonel. It's where my bar is. It's where my everything is. And barbecue is a really big thing to us. The reason I tried ham in the first place is because the East Side barbecue place here in town swears by using charcoal made out of meat. They use charcoal, but they also make charcoal out of meat, and they use that to smoke. And I'd actually never really seen that before because I'm not that big of a barbecue guy, or wasn't until I moved here. And now that I'm learning more about it, I was like, oh, what if I tried that with this? So I took one of their little nuggets. And that was the ham I was telling you about, Mike. I was telling Moberly about this before we started. Took a little chunk of ham, put it in there. Ham smoke came out. And what's cool is what we're used to, when you think about it in a context, fire and burning things typically, oh, that's over caramelization. That's too much. It's burnt. There's too much carbon. But because it's being transferred into smoke and then being infused into a spirit, or most likely into a full cocktail, well, then you have a situation where that carbon isn't such a bad thing. And instead of being some super overly intense flavor of ham, you instead get basically a really intense reduction of ham because the carbon gets cut by the ethanol. All of the gnarly sort of bitter esters disappear, just like they never show up in our drinks, despite the fact that if I took some of, well, this cooperage especially, but if I took this out and ate it, I would have to leave because I'd go to the hospital. It would taste so bad. So there are enough things that we can destroy to create new, interesting flavors that I feel like maybe we haven't fully explored. Like cinnamon, here's what I'm going to say. I tried cinnamon. We're not going to do cinnamon today because a butane torch uses a lot of energy to push that butane out. And as you saw, some of the chips came out. That's no big deal. It looks cool. When it's cinnamon, the thing we use to make fire climb at tiki bars, it turns out you just kind of make a tunnel of fire is what I did. I turned it on and just went boom. And I was like, oh, well, that was very cool looking, but didn't do anything. So my one piece of very serious advice is don't try powdered cinnamon. It works really, 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 really well. The other thing I would like to touch on. We have
a cinnamon bark that we use.
Yeah, cinnamon bark works awesome. Cinnamon bark works really well. And, just like you would maybe with like a brand killer or like any sort of other, like maybe a pina colada, a tiki drink like that you'd serve with a flaming cinnamon stick on it, you can get that exact same quality from this, and it's awesome. It's really cool. That cinnamon smoke is really nice. I should have probably led by saying that cinnamon bark works very well. Don't use cinnamon dust because cinnamon dust does not. One of the things, obviously, it is just a couple days after Thanksgiving, and I do have my fried bread apron on, so it seems appropriate that I should talk about this a little bit. I get asked a lot about burning sage. Burning sage is a thing that is unfortunately pretty problematic, and sage in general is a thing that's poached off the reservations, so much so that we don't have enough for our ceremony, but Sephora sells it. So here's what I'm going to say. If you are interested in burning sage, whether it be in your stovetop or at all, buy it from an actual native, please. Don't just go to Sephora or like a store and buy it. Don't even go to Whole Foods and buy it. Don't go to Restaurant Depot and buy it. Find an actual vendor, a person who picks it, who has a ceremonial understanding of what it is. I know a lot of people, it might just be tradition, but I know a lot of people that will just burn sage and not know what it does. And it's like, well, then you're not doing anything. You're not going to cast any evil spirits away if you don't know what it does. That being said, if you do, and you do get it from a native person, then yeah, the smoke top is killer for it. And you end up with a really nice sage. You want to put it into a margarita or maybe into a bee's knees, something like that. Obviously, shaken drinks are way cooler to smoke just because they're shaken drinks. And maybe I have a bias because, as everybody knows, I love citrus. But it doesn't change the fact that a smoked daiquiri, like a cherrywood smoked daiquiri, or a peat smoked daiquiri, or a Iberico ham smoked daiquiri, like these options are all fantastic, and they're options that exist to us only because of this thing. The smoke top has made it so that we can do this stuff. All the other tools that exist basically make it impossible to do this at a decent pace, and this is the only one that's like workable. You can maintain it, you can work on it, you can, if I had some interesting ideas, like I tried layering some things, like potpourris are commonly, like traditionally Indian potpourris are layered. kind of like a pousse cafe, so you smell different things over time. So I tried something like that. I put a little cardamom underneath some fresher mint, and I ended up with a pretty cool thing. There's just a ton of very, very fertile ground here that doesn't exist, that didn't exist before in the smoking realm of drinks, that does, because we have the freedom, because it's so simple. It's so simple. It's a wooden puck. It's a little chimney with a screen. It's genius. It kind of looks like a gravity bomb. I love it.
Yeah.
Does remind me a little bit of that, but
well, it's kind of what it looks like.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing. And I going back to the sage conversation, do you have any advice for people who are looking to find a little bit more information about that, or locally, like where they could start to find sage that would be the source properly?
It's funny to say this because it's like saying go to your local library, but find a local res. Find out quite literally find out whose land you're on, and then find out where they got put, and then go find them. And then I guarantee you, on the border to the res, wherever you live, no matter what state it is, there will be people selling sage or sweetgrass or that sort of thing. They're all in the same family. If you're in the Southwest, it'll be white or red sage, maybe purple if you're in Texas. Most of the rest of the country is going to be sweetgrass, all the way up to where I'm from in Montana, all the way down, honestly, to here in Kentucky. The easiest way, though, 100%, if you want to do anything for your native community around, know that it exists, find out which one it is, find out what the local reservations are. There's probably more than one. Find out what they are and just go out there. Go out there and see what you can find. But I can promise you, as somebody who grew up on one, that they always have that stuff. They always do. There's going to be somebody selling you sterling silver jewelry. There's going to be somebody selling you fry bread, which is where I'll stop 3 times. And there's going to be somebody selling you sweetgrass and beads and that sort of thing. That seems like a sort of like a bygone way of doing commerce in this modern age, I understand. But to be honest, that's still the easiest way. Like, it's like when we want something from a farmer here in the South, you don't go to a farmer's market. It's not California. They're not represented anywhere. You have to go to the farm. Sometimes you have to call the person or just go to their farm and knock on their door and, hey, I'd like to buy cucumbers from you, please. And they go, yeah, sure. I got a whole bunch. How many of them you want? And that relationship, I think the intimacy of that is really nice. It's not dissimilar from the relationship you have with a bartender as a patron. It's sort of like, give me something, I'll give you money. It's a very it's very human. So not only will you be able to get sage and burn it ethically, but you can also ask about ceremony. Now, you're not going to be introduced to a lot of it, but you can ask about it and they can share it with you. And more than anything, you can not feel like a jerk for just buying it from Sephora or whatever, and you can put it into the smoke top and make a really cool margarita or a really cool old fashioned or something that you probably really wanted to do or maybe were doing before. And this gives you a way to do it a la minute for everybody. And you have a little more, I don't know, you don't feel so bad about it. You know, I don't know that people do feel bad about it. I kind of wish they did. But you don't have to feel any guilt there are plenty of ethical pathways. And I'm glad you asked about that because I think a lot of people want to do the right thing, but maybe don't know how to do it, which I'm happy to instruct on.
We had a question come in from Chucky. It says, have you done anything with oysters?
No, because I don't have it. I would love to. Oyster shell. So what she's referring to is, so she's from California, and oyster shells and stuff would be very, very cool because they would be like, oh man. No, I haven't, but I'm going to now. That's what I'm going to do when I hang up this call. I'm going to go find some freshwater river oysters because, yeah, oysters would be really cool. The salinity would be really neat. I actually haven't done any sort of seafood, really salty beast, because anything like that would be cool. I bet snails would be cool, not to be terribly crappy about it, but snails would be, I mean, everybody loves snails, but they would be really good because they're so salty and fatty. And I think just about one would fit inside here. You know, there are a lot of really cool food options like Saladitos. I want to do Saladitos because those are so weird. Do you guys know what those are?
I'm not familiar, no.
So Saladitos, it's basically a dried plum. It's a very common candy in the Southwest and Mexico. So I should just say Mexico. It's all Mexican land. They're tiny little plums that are covered in sugar and citric acid and chili salt and salt. And they're like the most salty, sour things you've ever had. But they're plums on the inside. So the longer you let them sit in your mouth, that citric acid, they start to get really, really, really soft. And they get really nice. I think smoking them would be cool because I haven't done anything with citric acid or anything with a high level of salt. I've mostly stuck to greenery or like natural things. I've been playing with plants, with those sorts of things, but that's a really cool idea. So no, I haven't, but I will now. I think roses would be cool. I haven't had the chance to try roses yet, but I really want to crush up some roses and try that.
We've done that. James, the owner and creator, said that it worked out really well. So
yeah, I bet it would.
Going to be on our list to do.
It smokes so consistently.
I know that you all have preset packages, like you recommend usage for certain flavors. What are those flavors, and how did you all land on those?
So we've actually narrowed it down a little bit. We had 9 flavors total, but just with sourcing them and some of the dust that comes from them, you really have to sift them out. So for quality assurances purposes, we are narrowing it down to maple, cherry, hickory, and oak. And then cinnamon is going to be considered a spice now. And then we're going to come up with approximately 3 more spices. And then we're also going to work on herbs and like roses and other things. And we're even going to try and do like a subscription style thing where you could pay, a monthly fee and get a new flavor every month.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea. Is there anything that you like? Do you have like a dream one? Do you have like something that's like kind of out there that y'all tried definitely didn't work?
Not really. My favorite's maple, and it's probably the most popular. Oak, a lot of places use it for the old fashions and Manhattans, to just add some more depth to it. But yeah, and James might have a different answer. He probably has a dream one that he wants to try, but I know roses were on the list, that he wanted to do those and really enjoyed it. So I'm excited for 2022 is going to be big for our flavors.
Awesome. Nick, do you have any advice for folks who like maybe things they shouldn't smoke potentially?
Yeah. What do you mean? Like people who think to anybody who needs to be convinced, I mean, I think it comes down to whether it fits into your program or not. But realistically, if you want to have like a little bit of spectacle, a little bit of shine, really easy without a bunch of other stuff, what I would tell them, Moberly, is what I would tell you in privacy, which is we all know that our cocktails are fantastic and we all know that we put a tremendous amount of work into them. But we also know that interest has a little bit of a one-sided nature to it. So as much fun as it is to have really interesting drinks that read really interestingly, and people are going to be like, oh, you put that spirit with that wine? I will. Moberly will. The average person, the person who sits at your bar 80% of the time, the person who you get the majority of your income from, and who stands to be impressed the most by what you do, and who has the most favor towards what you do, is going to really appreciate something like this because it's fun, it's small, it's easy. And for the bars that are already doing a bunch of shit, if you have sorry, I cursed again, you know how I am. If you have a centrifuge, you should have a box of smoke tops. You have no excuse. If you have any of these silly, you know how I am. I have 2 bar tools. I use an immersion blender and a scale, and that's it. It's all I've ever used. Now I have smoke tops too, because they're really useful. I don't really bring things into my lineup unless I can stand right next to the person who made it and be like, yeah, man, this is legitimately a cool product. It's incredibly useful. It's what you say it is, and there's no extra nothing. It really works incredibly fast. It's wild because, like to the people who would be like, well, I don't know about this, or maybe I'm intimidated by the idea of learning to smoke. Guys, this thing makes it as easy as possible. I understand that with the smoking gun and all the cling film and the motor and all the stuff and the hose and the crap. I understand that. That's intimidating. This is not intimidating at all. This is really easy and it's really nice. So if you were intimidated by smoking before, or you thought it was too much of a hassle like myself, and you didn't want to put it into your program because having a smoking gun behind your bar was impractical and silly and it was going to get broken, this is your solution. To bar managers out there who are questioning this, who are like, oh, how do I take this to my owner? To owners like myself who are questioning this. Guys, this is such a cool tool. It's so easy. It doesn't break. I knocked it over earlier today when we were setting up. It doesn't break. It's a beautiful piece of cherry wood from Ohio. It's not gonna break. It's sustainable because you can grow a bunch of these out of the ground, and the energy that goes into making them can be made with electricity. You can run a lathe on electricity. You can do all that stuff, and electricity is our most sustainable fuel. So realistically, you don't have a great argument if you say you don't want to use one of these. I would imagine it's just kind of a petty difference of opinion, because all of this stuff, all of the criticisms that I used to have were probably the same as those people's, which was when Lindsay brought the idea up to me, I was like, a gizmo? And then I tried it and I was like, oh, this thing rules. I love this. I'm a smoke top man forever because it's really cool. It's really useful. Bought one immersion circulator like 10 years ago, and now I swear by them. It's all I use. Every recipe I have calls for that. Every prep recipe, everything. This thing's fallen into that same family because it's so incredibly useful. It's so versatile. I'll put it this way, and this is not me shilling. If you have Hawthorne strainers and then you bother to still have julep strainers, you should have smoke tops. You should buy a smoke top before you buy a julep strainer. This serves significantly more purpose than a julep strainer does. So if you have a bunch of those gold covered, made kids in China blind because they poison the water strainers, the julep strainers, you can get one of these perfectly ethical, sustainable options as well, because this is a really cool tool. It should be on every bar, whether you're a little sports bar and you're showing off to the one guy who likes drinks in your spot, or you're the fanciest place on the block and you have 100 of these ready to go out to tables. It really doesn't matter. They're so cool. It's so useful. It's hard to break. It's hard to lose. People like it. Like, there are just very few arguments against the smoke top. I would love to have one because everybody knows I'm like the most argumentative guy in the world, but it's just legitimately a very cool tool. And I applaud Middleton Mixology for making it because it's neat. We don't have a ton of tools that were made by bartenders with us in mind that aren't some silly gimmick. This legitimately fixes a problem that we had. Smoking was a silly gimmick until the smoke top. Now we can do it all in minute. Now we can do it during service. I can get this lost in the sink and be like, oh, where's my smoke top? And I can pull it out and I can get it going like you should want to do with any other good tool. I love it, man. I really do. So if anybody has any sort of reservations or questions about it, I hope we settled that today because they're cool and it's worth it. Buy one. Just give it a shot. It's not like it's going to break the bank. Pick one up. Play with it. See if you like it. See if you love it. I bet you do. It's so easy to use. I mean, it doesn't even need instructions because gravity does it. Gravity does all the work. There's no moving pieces. Do you know how much, as a bar owner, I appreciate that this doesn't have any parts? You know how much I like that I don't have to order parts for this ever? I have a cold draft machine that's broken 3 times in a year. I've had to replace the circuit board in it. I love this thing. I love it so much. I'm never going to have to do that, and it's never going to let me down. So if you're a fan of cool bar tools, even Bar Tools 101, man, like at the very top, pick up a smoke top. It's really cool. You're going to love playing with it. And there are just so many options that I have a feeling we're going to see smoked cocktails, specifically in American programs. In Europe and in Asia, I saw them pretty much on everybody's menu, and they'd get out the gun and do the whole thing. I think with this, now the pragmatic Americans are going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll use this thing now. Now I'll figure out how to smoke cocktails because this is actually something that's really interesting to me because it's not some huge device. That thing's this big. I know this has been a lot of crapping on the smoking gun. I just don't like it. And I really, really like the smoke top. It's so easy to use. So I'll tell you this much. I've said all that stuff. But if anybody else has any questions or reservations about using it, you can just come talk to me, okay? You come talk to this guy. That's interesting.
Do you have any other recipes or tips for folks?
Dude, play with it. Recipes are hard because, so currently I'm trying to figure out the weighted thing, like the portioning, figuring out exactly portioning. But that's tough to do because it takes a lot of tasting. It takes a lot of time. And we're doing it with a lot of drinks. I like things that are universally applicable across my menu. And you know how cool it is? So we have an affection for Waffle House down here in Kentucky. And one of the things that we're putting on our menu is a sort of a Waffle House way of ordering things. So Waffle House, you get smothered and covered, you know, gravy and all that. Well, you can do the same thing with us, but we'll make it strawberry or we'll make it this. Well, smoked is going to become one of those options with the smoke top now. So you could come into a bar, order any drink off our menu and ask to get it smoked. You can get it smoked. It's no extra hassle to us. It's tons of extra value to the patron. We maybe charge you $1 or something for it if we want to, or we don't because it doesn't take any extra time. And you have a cooler experience. So I think it's really cool. I think people should play with it. Recipes, I mean, I hesitate to make recipes with it just yet because what's cool about it is that you can use it in service. You know, when I'm prepping something, that's when you think about recipes and you think about that sort of stuff. But with this sort of thing, tips I can give, layer smoke. Take like a peated Irish or something and put a bunch of oak smoke in it. Take Macallan and put peat in it. Take your favorite mezcal and put a bunch of peat in it. You ever had a peated mezcal before? Probably not. You can make it on your own right now. You don't have to do anything. You just say, you know what? I want to make that. You grab this little tool, boom, Bob's your uncle. You've got peated mezcal now, and you're going to be the next Casamigos. So play with it, have fun with it. I feel about this tool very much how I felt about the immersion circulator when I first got it, which is like, this has a very obvious use. and it gets used very well for that. But what else could we do with this thing? And I have a feeling this smoke top has a ton of potential because there's so many cool. Think about the presentation stuff you could do with a tiki drink with this. This floats. This thing floats. So you could put it on something with a specific gravity higher than that, and it'll float. And it'll sit there and float. And you've got a smoking little boat. Build a little boat around it. You know what I mean? There's just so much potential for this, not just as a tool, but as a garnishing device and so many other things that I think we're going to see a lot with the smoke top in 2022 and in the future, because there's a lot of room to play with it, and I don't think any of us have it quite figured out yet, and that's what's so exciting about it.
We had another question come in from Chucky, which is any tea recommendations for smoking? Any tea varietals?
Yeah, I mean, so black tea, obviously, right? Like any sort of Chinese black tea. White tea is really cool because white tea smokes a lot, like a lot, and it's very opaque. So not only does it taste good, but you get more oil on the glass, and you'll actually end up with, you'll be able to look at it and see I don't know if everybody at home knows what crenulation is. That's when you see the waves on the side of a glass. That's how you see what the gravity is. Like when you take a whiskey and you move it and you see that little line that it leaves.
Some people call it the legs.
Yeah, exactly. The legs. So you can do that with smoke too. And when you do that with smoke, you can see how dense it is. That's what I was doing when I was shaking it out. So like a stage trick when they're setting up smoke machines. And the white tea smoke is just huge and heavy and really cool. Green tea, go for it. But green tea, I think most people, not just because of the name, they think of matcha, they think of that sort of thing. So I might stay away from green teas, but play with it. I mean, it would be really fun to do like a smoked sun tea. There's just, like something that's already been made into a fluid would be really cool.
Something that's been extracted already.
Exactly, and then like put it back in. I don't know if you ever tried doing this, but you can make like super liqueurs by dehydrating them and then putting them back into that liqueur. So like you can take Aperol and dehydrate it and then put that powdered Aperol back into a bottle of Aperol, and you've got like Ichiban Aperol. And I think that would be really fun to try with tea or things like that, because you could take teas. I mean, you could smoke white tea into a black tea, into a green tea. There's so many really, really cool possibilities. Basically, if it burns, you'll learn something. Like, oh, that kind of rhymed. It's the tea. I would go with black teas. I like white tea the most so far. I've had a lot of really cool success with white tea. Black tea is a no-brainer because black tea pairs really well with things that smoke pairs really well with, and it's relatively tannic. So if you want to put it into a scotch, like smoking black tea into Frog or Ardbeg or something like that would probably be really, really, really interesting. What I really want to do is I want to peat smoke Fernet. That's the thing I haven't done yet. It's on my list. I went on vacation. I've been doing stuff, but that's on my short list because I think there's a lot of room. I think smoked shots are going to be a thing that nobody's talked about yet. We were playing with that a little bit, and it's a thing you don't see too much. And I think, with the smoking gun, you're not going to do it because it's too much hassle. It's not worth doing fun and fast. But with this, you can do it so fast that if you're making them in a glass or whatever, or even if you're making them in a tin, remember, you can smoke something in a tin too if you want. Just I wouldn't put the ice in there first. It'll help. But that being said, like shots, taking a shot of Fernet or taking a Ferrari or a Rhinar or whatever your thing of choice is to show that you cocktail bartend, you can take that, and when you put a little smoke into the top of that, you end up with something really cool. You know what I mean? It would even be good with a warm gin shot, I'm sure. But being able to make it so a la minute, man, that's cool. Because, like, imagine if you made a Don Beach Suffering Bastard. So you make a regular Suffering Bastard, and then you've got the sidecar, smoke the sidecar. How many places have you gone to that want to use a tiny little glass so they give you a sidecar? Well, if you're going to do that, why don't you smoke that sidecar? Why don't you give me half of a regular martini and half of a smoked martini? So there's like a bunch of room there, and something like tea for a martini would be fantastic. Like you can even, the pun is already in the name. There you go. The martini.
Tea. But, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but something like that, like aromatized wine, stuff like that pair really well with tea. Obviously, that's the punch idea, but it's still true with the smoke too.
Another question that came in, is there a certain torch you recommend to shop for? Do you have, like you said, you have one immersion blender you use. Do you have a torch you feel the same way about?
I honestly, a regular old little benzoate kitchen torch. I have made myself leftover grilled cheese sandwiches with that torch. I have made, what I mean? I've made drinks with it. I've prepped items. I love it. I love it. It would be interesting to see is the Searsol isn't that useful of a tool, but the type of technology that it uses to spread heat across that weave is pretty useful. Yeah. And it's not that that tool isn't useful. I guess we just don't have a lot of uses for it because we have ovens and stuff. Right. You know, we cook food as it is. But something like that, somewhere between like a benzoate torch and a Searsol, like something that had sort of like a much more concentrated heat, sort of like a cigarette lighter might be nice, just because of the nature. Like what I said about the wind from the flame, you want to turn your torch down. You can, I've been filling the chimney so that you guys can see. You don't have to fill it, not even at all. You can just basically cover it, and that's more. You cover the screen, that's more than enough. But when you fill it, if you're doing a lot, it can move around, and it's only because of the torch. There isn't like a way they could fix that with the tool. There's nothing wrong with the tool. So in a perfect world, what I would have is sort of like a cigarette lighter torch that I could turn on like that and just sort of press onto it. Sort of like, we won't get into it again, but sort of like a dab would be, you know, like something that could be hot and big so that you had a lot of surface area, because that'll cause a more efficient distribution of smoke. But as it stands, the benzo torches work great. A regular kitchen torch that you can get at any kitchen supply place works fantastically well. And until I rip apart a Searsol and make a torch like what I just said and start selling it to everybody, I guess, or the lovely people at Middleton Mixology do so, I would go with just the regular torch. I don't have any problems with it. You're going to be able to get the gas for it at every kitchen supply store. You got to remember that my favorite knife to use is just a Victorinox serrated 3.5-inch paring knife. Why? Because they're awesome. They're sharp enough to cut off several of my fingers and I can buy one for $10 anywhere I am. I used to travel for work nonstop. I didn't have a lease. I did event after event after event after event, and it wasn't working like as a rep. I was preparing. So we had to know where to get all that stuff in every town. So a lot of my tool philosophy is built around abundance. It's like why you own a Toyota truck. You own a Toyota truck because they're reliable, but because the parts are as cheap as humanly possible and everywhere in the entire world. So same idea. There might be a really, really niche torch that works super, super well, but until we know what it is, and until it gets distribution in a way that's super effective, which isn't just through Amazon or something like that, like actually I can go into a cash and carry and get it, I'm going to stick with benzo torches for sure.
And we do sell that torch on our website.
Oh,
fair. Yeah, you should pick it up. It's great.
I do know they sell tabletop like cigarette lighters now, like the car ones. You can buy them. They're kind of
I saw the Seth Rogen one. I saw the one he made.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, they have that one, but I try to find a cheaper version of that one. Well, and then I had one more question personally, which is how do you, like in your mise en place, how do you prepare for the variability of like size of smokables, or like just kind of the oil variabilities that can happen in some things you're smoking? Like, is it weight that you'd be focusing on, or size that you'd be focusing on?
Weight. My core tenet with everything that I do is weight. When I was talking about those tools earlier, I mentioned a scale. I weigh, still didn't break, guys. Still didn't break. I weigh absolutely everything because that's the only real accurate way. Like if you went to culinary school and they taught you how to make simple, they'll teach you how to weigh it because that's the easiest way to do it, because volumetrically measurements are misleading, and we're really skating around this a lot today. But say you have 3.5 grams of something and you're looking at it, it might be significantly larger than 3.5 grams of that same thing if it were ground up. So 3.5 grams of sugar is about as dense as it can get. As a matter of fact, white granulated is that size so that it has the same density as water, so they weigh the same amount. That's really nice, really useful. It's why your simple syrup doesn't suck when you make it volumetrically. It's because the people at the sugar factory were thinking about you. That being said, the easiest thing you can do, what I was talking about earlier was getting the measurements down. So the way that we currently have it, we don't have a ton of mise in terms of like bitters and garnish. We don't do fresh garnishes because we prep everything because we don't have waste, and that's the easiest way to control it. So these kind of take the place of that. And you know, what's nice about this chimney, the little bowl on this chimney, is that it's probably, it's about a fingernail deep. It's probably about 4 or 5 mil deep. Do you know exactly how deep it is?
No.
Okay. It's okay. That's a super weird question. But it's about 4 or 5 mils deep. I can measure it. I have a thing right there. It's 4 or 5 mils deep, which, is ample space. I don't know that you'd have to fill it every time. I honestly wonder if timing wouldn't help. like I should probably play with it in service because currently we just weigh it, but timing would probably help. Like if you have a consistent heat, you know what I mean? It's like baking a cake. If you know 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, it's like free pouring. You could probably free pour the torch and get more used to a mise en place. But as it stands, what's cool about this is we're coming from a world where with smoking, you had to guess everything and just stop when the glass was full and kind of keep going. We've been almost burdened with homework with this not because I have to have it, but because I've got a whole bunch of new options now, a bunch of stuff that I used to just have to write off and say, no, I can't do that. There's no way I could do that. Now I can do it. So to fully answer your question, I would wait. Wait's the best way to do it. But in service, in terms of portioning for a drink, I think for the time being, it's going to still be by eye. You can get used to it. And, if you want to portion it and get like a teaspoon or a tablespoon, realistically, a bar spoon is more than enough. I'd say a bar spoon is usually about twice as much as you need. So I think in the same way that we all learned how to measure one really small thing, we'll probably start to learn how to measure this. We know how to tell each other how to put drops of infusions and bitters and things into drinks. I think this will probably be easiestly done with weight. It'll probably be grams, like that drink gets 1 gram of cherry chips for 3 seconds, that sort of thing. I think that's probably going to be how these recipes shake out in the future, because like I said, I don't think the smokettop's going anywhere. I think this is going to become very standard equipment for a lot of people, which means that those recipes that mise en place and that technique is going to have to be taught to more people. And that's awesome. So yeah, I think we'll find out. I think my answer right now is wait. I think if you ask me in 6 months, I'll have a much more detailed answer that's like wait, and then I'm going to talk for 40 more minutes.
We'll bring you back just to talk about smoke and weight.
Yeah, like how's it go? How's the update? Give us an update.
Yeah. Well, very nice. Travis, will you talk to us a little bit how to purchase one of these bad boys?
Yeah, so MiddletonMixology.com is the best place right now with the holidays. We are running low, so if you want one, get in there and get them while we've got them in stock. We are also on Amazon. We are branching out to different countries on Amazon as well. But yeah, Middleton Mixology. You can hop on our Instagram, should have links or QR codes. But yeah, all of our products are just right there on one easy page to find. And you can get the torches, wood chips. We have bundle packages. We are currently out of the torch that Nickle has been using, but we do have a replacement.
Never mind, don't get this torch.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so very easy. Just hop online. Yeah, we're not really in any retailer. We have a few retailers, but most people just find us online.
Can this be purchased in the UK? Do you guys ship internationally?
We do not. We unfortunately had to stop. It was costing our customers. It was making it like triple the cost to ship to the UK. And unfortunately, I don't think we're in Amazon UK yet. I know we're in Canada, Mexico, Australia, and Singapore. But I feel like every week we add more countries onto that. So hopefully the UK will be soon. And we are looking at new avenues to, as soon as we get through the holiday season, that is, to do it through our own website as well.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, do you have anything else you want to jump on with this? Anything you want to get smoky about?
All I was going to say is that he should have said you can smoke them while you got them because they're low on inventory. But no, they're fantastic. I really love this thing. You guys kind of caught me over a barrel for once. Usually I'm like, whatever, this thing's okay. Sincerely, I love it. I fully endorse it. I think it's a really cool product. Get them while you can. I will say this. If I have a lot of friends in the UK, I live in Louisville. Louisville is where the UPS hub is. So if you guys want to do a group buy on smoke tops, send me a message and I'll ship them all to you. Since it's pretty expensive, I'll happily put a bunch in a box and send them to everybody so that my friends in the UK can get some too. But this has been great. Check it out. Play with it. I can't emphasize it enough. Don't look at it from afar. Don't window shop on the smoke top. Just pick it up. Play with it. See what you think of it. See if you can make some modifications. There are a few things I could immediately think. A carb on the side would be cool because while the vacuum that's really dope coming down is very strong, you could control that with a carb, which means you could control how much smoke's coming in and out, which spectacle-wise is very cool, but also there's a lot of other options for that. It's just very cool, and I want to see them. I want to
tap it and make smoke rings too.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to see Rip Sick vape. I want to see Middleton be able to go in that direction. I want to see the company grow. I want to see more cool little innovations out of this product because it was born from innovation. So support these guys, support what they're doing. They're doing a cool thing. They are bartenders like us, and they're supporting, like, it's not, this is a little bit behind the curtain, Moberly. Don't tell anybody that I'm going to say this, but finding funding for native programming can be challenging sometimes because some people don't see the ROI. Any company like the Smoke Top that invests in us means that we invest in you. So by supporting us today and this month, at the very least, go pick one up. Say thank you. Say thank you from the natives. Say thank you in general. But it's really cool stuff. It's a cool product. It's easy to be endorsed by it because it's fun to sell. Go check it out. I love it. And if you're going to burn sage, buy it from a person who's actually native, please. It won't be very expensive. I'll tell you that much. And you'll probably have a really cool new friend.
And get to have a bunch of new resources too.
Probably
a good fried bread recipe.
For all of the bartenders and bar managers, bar owners, anybody that's watching this out there, we do have a great wholesale program as well. You can just click on our website. There's a little link that says wholesale. It'll tell you to reach out to me, Travis, at middletonmixology.com, and I'll get you hooked up with the wholesale program so that we can get those into your bars and restaurants.
Well, we appreciate that very much. That's definitely how you get them hooked, is get that wholesale price.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have some people even in the chat who said they just reached out for contact, and so that's exciting. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. This is an absolute pleasure. A smoky great time. As always, if you like this, please make sure that you like us on Facebook. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you want to share this with people, it's a great way that both of those, you can share that with your friends, somebody who may be working right now or whatever. Make sure you send it to them that way. Follow us on Instagram. Always a great way to know what's new, what's coming up. We're wrapping up our end of the year with a bunch of great programming. And if you have any other questions, you can throw them in the comments. I'll make sure they get to the right people. Thank you guys again so much for your day. I'll see y'all next time.